Welcome everybody back to another episode of 60 Seconds of Stoicism, your only podcast on the internet that's 60 seconds long, but lasts for a half hour. I am your host, Ryan Lee Mays. With me is my wife, Melinda.
Hey guys, good evening.
And we're happy to be with you guys for another week. Happy belated Mother's Day. You're a mother.
I am.
Yes. Did you have a good day yesterday?
I did. My husband spoiled me, my kids spoiled me, but we also spoiled my mom as well.
Well, they seem like really great people, so that's good. Well, it's probably only because you're such a great mother that they went to those links. So.
Aw, thank you.
Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. We're sorry we're a day late, but we thought it's only fair for the mother to be able to take a day off on Mother's Day from recording.
So it's my fault. Sorry, guys.
100% your fault. This would have been up last night. No, I'm just kidding. You definitely deserved it. So we had a bunch of family over and everything and just got to kind of kick back last night. So hope you all had fun. You called your mothers. If your mothers are no longer with us, you know, that's Mother's Day for me too. I still think about all the great times my mom brought my way and have my own kind of special conversation with her over that. So just a great time to remember the people in your life that you love the most. So hope you guys all had a great time. We have a topic this week that can be somewhat anxiety inducing. And that is doing things afraid. We all have experienced fear in our life. We've all wanted to do things or accomplish things or go places or have relationships that have caused us fear. And many times they cause us to avoid those things, to not want to do them, to not be a part of them. So today we're going to kind of talk about facing our fears as far as that goes. So what I want to do is kind of just start us off with a couple of passages, scriptures, something that goes along the line to where we can kind of understand the type of fear that we're talking about. We're talking about the fear of taking chances to succeed or fail at something. 1 Corinthians 9:24, know you not that when you run a race, you run to win. All run, but only one receives a prize. So run that you may win the prize. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but when we are incorruptible, we win. I therefore so run, not as to be uncertain about winning, but to fight as one who breathes air. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. I make sure that my body is following my needs, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So basically, saying here in Corinthians, Paul's saying, run the race till you win. I don't challenge myself unless I think I can win. I don't take things lightly. I don't punch at the air. I keep my body under my self-control for it because I want to achieve a victory for that. For Paul, it was a victory in Christ. But let's look at another word here from the Stoics. We're going to talk about Seneca. Glad and cheerful, let us say, as we go to our rest, I have done living, and I have run the race that fortune has set for me. So again, two different thoughts walking the same pathway here. Paul's saying when you run the race, when you get it in front of you, don't half it, run to you to win. Seneca says, when I look back at the end of my life, I want to say that I've run the race that was given to me and I did it to the best of my abilities. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Got a few questions just to kind of get us started on doing things afraid. And I'm not talking about the noise that you hear in the garage at night and you go out there to investigate. So, which I get a lot of flack for in my family.
I was going to say, that's something you do.
Yes. They always tell me I'd be the first one to die in the horror film because I'm like, oh, there's a noise. Let me go see what it is. So, no, we're not talking about that fear. We're talking about something that can be ultimately life-changing, an event that you're willing to take on, or one that you try not to take on because you're afraid of it. So my first question today is, what are 3 things that keep you from taking chances? 3 things that might cause you to be afraid to do things.
So first of all, being afraid of failing.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I did that a lot. And so then, you don't want to like fall on your face again and again. Secondly was, I was a young mom, and so responsibility came to me very early on. Like, I was the older sister. I took care of my sisters. Being a young mother and seeing, like, maybe not making wise choices, thinking things out properly, and I would take some chances, and then those consequences then became not just mine, but then it would affect those around me. Thirdly, I can't remember what my third one was. I feel like we talked about it earlier.
You had mentioned something before we did it about not having the ability or thinking you don't have the ability or not being good enough to do it.
Yeah, so that was another thing. Just feeling like I wasn't, capable of doing things, just kind of self-doubt, self-doubting myself, not being properly equipped to do the thing that I wanted to do. So, yeah.
No, that's good. It's very good. I think a lot of us share those things in similar ways. I think the fear of failure is a big one, and that's what keeps us from even getting started. And I think that's what Paul's really talking about in the scripture that he writes in Corinthians, is that don't do it unless you're planning on winning it. Like, don't just say, oh, I hope it kind of falls my way. You're going in this striving for the victory. 100%. You're running the race to win it. And I think for us, because we have so many doubts, we do go into things halfway and they fail. And we said, well, we kind of knew it was going to. We thought we would fail and we did. So that's the end of that. And it's the complete opposite mindset that we're supposed to have with it. Epictetus says, and in the event that you're faced with something painful or pleasant, or something that will enhance or damage your reputation, remember that the constant is on. That here, now, are your Olympic Games. That procrastination is no longer an option, and that just one defeat and surrender determines whether you progress or are ruined, and that remains intact. So he's saying this moment of your life is the Olympic Games. This is what you are training for. We really have to understand we watch the Olympics. We love the Olympics. We watch them now. We watched all, through the summer forward. We love the Olympics.
Yes.
It was a whole different level in the country that created them. They trained their entire lives for this as well. They did not just train in an event. They trained in all events across the board. And yes, they may have excelled in other ones, certain ones over other ones, but they trained for everything. Their diet was consistent their whole life. And they did these Olympic Games into their old ages. These weren't, people that, like we see in the Olympics, oh, now you're 24, you need to retire. They went into the old ages competing in these Olympics and in these races and these marathons and just all the stuff that they did. So they wanted to make sure, if I'm going into this, I am not going in to fail. I'm going in to succeed for that. So
no, we do, and we self-sabotage, and I've done that so many times. There's so many times where I can remember saying, God, give me the strength, or show me a sign. And I feel like there was probably moments where he did do that, and then I still doubted, and then I was like, oh, send me another sign, or send me the right person. And he would send the right person, and I still feel like I still doubted.
Yeah.
And that sucks, because it wasn't just doubting myself, but I was doubting God too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we want to think of the Stoics as these people with no emotion, which is absolutely not true. They had a lot of emotions, but they practiced apatheia, which was controlling their emotions, to not go too much one way or the other with it.
Yeah.
And yes, they did not want to fail at the things they did. The emotion of loss or not succeeding, that's where they had to really use their studiousness to say, okay, I've learned at this to not take this as a setback, but to use this as motivation to move forward. I have a problem with that. This is one of my reasons for maybe not taking chances so much, is that I don't think that I have enough preparation sometimes when I go into things. And I make excuses. Just a little bit more of this. Just a little bit more time. Just a little bit more money. Just a little bit more knowledge. And I'm not going into it like Epictetus says, where I'm like, this is my Olympic Games, and I'm coming in right now, and I'm going to take everything I have and make sure that I succeed. It's like, I'll get to that later on. But what happens is, like our modern day Olympians, then you turn 24, 34, 44, you're into your 50s, and you're like, I have not taken the chances on any of these things. Yeah. And now it's too late. So we don't want too late to ever be a thing for us. Another one is, I get afraid for the letdown from victory. Okay. Which seems kind of counterproductive when we're talking about this. You're trying to run the race to win. But when you get to the win, then what? It's like a letdown. I achieved this. I worked so hard for this. This is great. And I had it for but a moment. And I think that also goes back to the Stoic mindset of we're not trying to get the earthly fame and achievements and all of that. It's far more for the Stoics. It's far more about running the race than it is, the accolades afterwards.
Yeah.
It's about knowing you did the best.
You're questioning, okay, then why did I do this to begin with? Yeah. Was it, you're right, was it for the acknowledgement? Was it for this, for that? What was it truly for? And it's, it puts us into a check of why was I doing that?
Yeah.
And what was the true outcome? Was my heart really in it for the real reason? And the experience, the experience of it, so.
Yeah, no, that's good. And if I'm not afraid to fail, if I'm not afraid to lose the race, then that also won't keep me from running it.
Yeah.
Because I'm running it for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
I'm running it for the challenge of it. Going along with that, Seneca says, to lie in undisturbed calm with nothing to rouse yourself toward, nothing to strive after, nothing to denounce or contend against, testing the firmness of your mind, that's not tranquility, it's enfeeblement. Saying, hey, I want to try, I'm good. I want to do that, I don't want to try that, I don't want to achieve that, I don't want to go there, I'm just good. Seneca's saying, no, you're weak. You're weak because you're not challenging yourself on these things. And he's not saying that you shouldn't have peace with who you are and what you have, but he's saying that when we strive to become better students, when we just strive to learn more, when we strive to be better towards other people, then that's when we're achieving the things in our lives. Otherwise, we're just weak. We're pushing things off, saying, nah, you just do that. I had somebody very close to me, and I won't say who it is, but in the last years of their life, they did that. And we really wanted this individual to push and to try things and to find some enjoyment in life and to find some purpose. And they were very content just sitting by the side and letting the world go around. And it was very sad to watch. It was very hard to watch. Something that I talked to this individual about a lot. And when that individual finally passed, I cared for them so much for who they were and who they were to me, but I just thought to myself, what a wasted end of the life to not read one more book, or try to go see one more movie. That's what you like to do, or pick up one last hobby. And maybe some people would argue with me and say, hey, that's fine. If that's what you've gained in your life and that's how you want to end it, then that's how you should. And it's true. This individual could pick to do that whether or not they wanted to. But for me, I think until my last day, semper studiosus. I want to always be studying, always be learning, always be advancing, even if it's just in some small way. And that's what Seneca's imploring us to do here too. Mm-hmm. I want to throw something out here that I want everybody to think about for a second. Anxiety. We all have anxiety. It is what keeps us from doing a lot of things that we're afraid to do. But can we flip that around? Can anxiety be a synonym for fun? For it. Think about it for a second.
Yeah, I mean, and because people do it all the time, they get this adrenaline rush from it,
mm-hmm.
Jumping out of an airplane,
yeah,
doing bungee jumping. Like, I don't know. I've always said I would love to do that one day. I don't know that I actually would, but man, it is on my bucket to-do list.
Yes, to do all of that, yes. If I ever went bungee jumping, I want like 45 bungees attached to it.
Yeah.
I want to, but yes, it's that fun, that adrenaline you have with it, that this could go wrong.
Yeah.
That's the excitement that's with it. But we don't do that in the choices that we make in our lives.
Yeah.
We don't want that adrenaline or that fun for it. We're like, I'm afraid it's going to fail. I'm just going to take a big step back from the edge and not even try it. So to throw out all the cliches right now, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Even Michael Jordan was cut off of his high school basketball team. I can throw all the cliche ones out there, but there's nuggets of truth in all of those things.
Yeah.
Is that you have to switch your paradigm when you're doing things afraid from something that makes me anxious, that's going to stop me, to looking forward to the adventure. Success or fail. Hopefully not fail at bungee jumping, but the other things in life the big things that you do.
But sometimes that's a way of confronting it, is by facing it on, you know. We listened to a video the other day with, what's his name? Mark Manson.
Mark Manson, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, 2 women were afraid of driving, and,
Yeah.
you know, he just baby steps, different ways of allowing them to confront the fear, you know, and just taking them on these different adventures of, you know, to help them get over their fear of driving. And so that's directly, you know, heading into it, right? Facing it on, you know.
And that's what exposure therapy is, and that's what he was doing in there for psychology, is confronting the thing that fears, you know, that it makes you afraid the most, that gives you the most fear. For that. For instance, in exposure therapy, if someone's afraid of a spider, they start out with a picture of a spider.
Yeah.
And they may put it in front of the person, they might scream or walk out, but then the next one is to touch the picture of the spider. And maybe the next, session is to hold a fake spider. And then the next session is a real spider. A spider is brought in a jar and set in the corner of the room. Mm-hmm. And gradually you're confronting your fears. You're facing your fears. And it becomes almost to the point where once you master them, you feel ridiculous that they were ever fears. But you shouldn't feel ridiculous. It's natural to have them. But if you're always afraid of what's there, then you'll never get past what's there.
Exactly.
What's on the other side of there. So that's something that we have to do. What motivates you to want to take those chances, to want to do it afraid?
What motivates me is, I think, my past regrets of not, you know, just the fact that I allowed things to paralyze me, and not take chances again. And so what motivates me now is I look back at regret. So regret is one of them. Mm-hmm. Man, I look at myself now. I'm like, I'm 45. I'm gonna be 45 this month, and man, there's so much more that I feel like I could have accomplished. I could be so much further into part of my career, my education with this, had I done this, had I done that. But what also motivates me is the person that I'm with, and that's you, my husband, you know, and my kids, you know, being older now and saying, hey, Mom, it's your turn now. Like, you've done this for us. It's your turn. But a lot of it has to do with the person that you're with. And I see all the things that you've achieved and the things that you've done. You have pushed me. You know, I tell you a lot of my thoughts. Like, I wish I could do this, or I'd love to do this. And you're like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do it. And like, you push me and I'm like, wait, hold on.
Time for some exposure therapy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, let's think this out. And you're just kind of like, no, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with who you're with. And so you're that for me, babe.
Well, and then I only push you because I know you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, you have all the abilities to do it. And so you sometimes need those people in your life. I had that with my uncle, who pushed me to go back to school because I was very afraid I was going to fail. I had friends that went to college. They're like, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Oh, I hate college. I hope I never go back to this, again. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to fail miserably. And he very calmly told me, I know who you are. You have every bit of a chance to succeed as anybody else. You go in there and do it afraid. And I did. And I loved it. And had that hand not been on my back to push me, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have. Yeah. I wouldn't have ever do it. So, I want to just return that favor to the people around us. We'll talk about that in a little bit about how we can help other people. So, a couple of things too, and I totally agree. I feel like when you have the right partner, you feel like you can take on anything. That's a great way to get over that fear and just do it afraid for it. I also have the what's on the other side of the fence phobia or syndrome. I guess not phobia, it'd be more syndrome on it. I always have to know what's beyond there. And if I don't take those chances, I don't know. It's like the noise in the garage. Something falls in the garage, or it could be a mass murderer, that's coming to hurt my family. And so I'm like, I got to see what it is, because I can't just sit here. I have to do it. And that could get me into a lot of trouble. And, by doing those things. But it's kind of like what's going on the other side. So I have to tell a story about my family here. Speaking of the same thing.
Oh, no.
We live in a neighborhood. We have a nice neighborhood, and the house next to us. All of a sudden, we would see a new car in the driveway every day. Every single day. And so our minds started creating this narrative. We're like, what if this is a drug house? What if they're trafficking here? What if they're doing all of this? So, it's going back on. So one day I'm in the car with my youngest daughter, and my wife's like, what would be the reason that all those cars are all there all the time? And my daughter and I looked at each other, we're like, Airbnb. And that's what it was.
Sure enough, it was.
Sure enough.
I see the people coming out of their car. I'm sitting in the driveway and I'm talking on the phone with them. I'm like, hey guys, there's another car. New family, like new people going in. Like, what in the heck? What's going on? Yesterday it was a guy and a woman, and today it's a woman and 3 kids, or not even 3 kids. They were like older girls, but I'm like, what the heck is going on?
But it was my wife who said, I'm just going to go over and ask these people if this is an
I
Airbnb.
did.
Walked over to strangers that are here from California and said, is this an Airbnb? And they said, yes. And then all the fears that we thought we had just went away.
We were laughing.
And we felt like, morons for it. But I go out this weekend and I'm like, where is my chair that I sit in to barbecue? I'm like, where's it at? And I look over by the fence, and it's over by the fence because my wife and my daughter had to get on the chair and look into the backyard of the new Airbnb and see how they remodeled it. But that's what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
It's the motivator of I'm missing out on what is right over there. What if it is the most amazing backyard ever? What if there's waterfalls, unicorns, and fairies flying around that we're never going to see?
Well, there wasn't waterfalls and unicorns, but it was better because the yard was cleaner.
Okay.
It was nicely clipped.
Okay, good.
Perfect lawn.
And they had it manicured.
Yes, they did.
But that can be a motivator. That's what I'm saying. Like, fear of not... Again, going back to the saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Like, it's that thing that eats you up of like, I just got to know, so I'm going to do it afraid because I got to find out. So... those can be motivators for us. Next question. What does doing it afraid tell us about ourselves? We got to internally examine who we are, but what does doing it afraid tell us about ourselves? And I'm going to take this one first because I want to read a Stoic passage here from Epictetus' Discourses. He says, a person's caliber is revealed by difficult circumstances. And so, when a difficulty occurs, think of it as God pitting you as a trainer might against a tough training partner. To what end, someone asked? To help you become an Olympic victor, which takes sweat and work. So I love how he says that. This is God pitting you against a tough opponent when you have to face these challenges that you're afraid of in life. And you're like, okay, this is my moment. I'm up against something bigger than me, stronger than me, better than me. I'm going to take all my sweat and hard work, as he says, and I'm going to try to take them down for it. So what it tells us about ourselves is we're willing to fight for the things that we truly want.
Yeah.
Afraid or not. It also tells me that we're students again, willing to learn from failure.
Yeah.
If we tell ourselves, I'm going to do this and I might fail, chances are I might fail, but I'm still going to give it all my heart to this, then we're willing to be that student and learn from the mistakes that are given to us.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Part of my regret and just saying, hey, and telling myself it's okay to fail. I had to, with age and life experience and with the regret, I had to finally say, man, it's okay to fail. And that's what I'm telling my own daughters now.
Yes.
It's okay to fail, guys. That's part of the learning process. I'm going to get some cuts and bruises and some little dings along the way, but it's really what molds us, what makes us. And, I think part of it too is learning that I could have, just remembering, like, I'm not alone. Like, in that fear, you think you're alone. But part of the growth for me was saying, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, but hey, it's also okay to remember, like, hey, I'm not in this alone. I started to learn how to talk, communicate, share what my fears were with other people, and then they were able to help me. They were like accountability for me, just.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's very good. Surround yourselves with the people that uplift you. That's what Epictetus says.
To hold me accountable, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it also tells us, too, when we do things afraid, if we really want this or not. Could you imagine waiting in line at a roller coaster at Disneyland and walking up to it and looking at the seat and turning around and walking away? Yeah. Everybody would be like, well, I guess he didn't really want to ride that ride, did he? Well, I thought I did, but I really didn't. But when you sit in the seat, when you go through it and afterwards you're done and it was a lot of fun, you're like, man, I really wanted to do this, and I finally did it. I accomplished it. I did it afraid, and I got through. So it's a good gauge on the things that we really want for ourselves. If you're starting a business that you really don't want to do, and you're putting your time and effort into it, it's probably going to fail. You didn't want it. You didn't have those sleepless nights, and you didn't do all your research, and you didn't put all your time and effort into it because it wasn't really something you cared about. And you thought it might make you some money, and maybe it's the popular thing at the time and all of that, but without wanting to do it and being afraid to fail, even if you're putting all of your effort into it, then it's probably not to succeed because it's just not worth your time to do that. So, all right. Next quote, from Marcus Aurelius, never act without purpose and resolve or without the means to finish the job. Never start something unless you plan on finishing it. And I think if we have that mindset, that'll make us do it afraid. Yeah. Because once we get into it, there's no turning back.
There's no turning back.
No turning back from that. So, all right, next question. Are we afraid more to fail by our own standards or the standards of others?
Both for me, but probably more about what someone else thought and how they saw it or how they thought it should have been. And so it took me a while because I was always a people pleaser. Yeah. And so, I feel like it was a lot of what people thought,
No, you're right. I think we look at other people as the pedestal. That is what I want to achieve. And if I don't achieve it, they're going to look down on me and laugh. And it's a very unfair thing for us to do to ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, what does success look like to us first before anything else? Yeah. We have been very lucky. This last week we hit our 3,000th subscriber on YouTube, and we've done it pretty quickly. And it's nice because we're succeeding in this. And then I'll throw up a video or a podcast or something that only get, a couple hundred views, as opposed to the ones that are getting a couple thousand. And like, man, what a failure. Wrong. It's wrong thinking for it. Because now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the standard of everybody else and even my own past achievements and saying, we should have been to this level and we failed. Where the question was, did something that you and I worked on help somebody? Yeah. Did it make somebody think a little bit different or re-examine themselves or help them find something to do for their relationship? And that should be our standard always for success. Yeah. That's it.
Even if it's just one person.
Just one person. And we said that at the start when we did this. Even if it's just one other person. And so when we let other people determine our success before we even start, we're going to fail. And we're not going to do it afraid.
Yeah, you've already failed.
Yeah. We're just going to be too afraid to start for it. Going back to Mark Manson, he borrows this quote a lot. If you wouldn't take someone's advice, why would you take their criticism?
True.
And I think that's a great quote. I know that's not an original from him, but he uses it all the time on there. And it's true. I wouldn't go to this person that's leaving this stupid review on my channel and say, what should I do better next time? Because they're not doing it kindly. It's not constructive. They just want to be a troll and throw something out there. So why do I care if they write that? I'm going to share a funny story with you guys. I did a live cast. And the first 5 people that got on, and it's the same people because I see them all the time. They come on as a group, and their only job is to troll people. Yeah. They came on, and they started making jokes and saying stuff and laughing. It was very distracting. So I decided to turn my face. We were live casting on 2 different things at the time. Turn my face to the other camera and talk to them specifically. And then as soon as I started getting serious, and I brought up God, and I think I brought up Epictetus at the time, I turned back around, and they were all gone. They were all gone. Because they realize, I can't get this guy. This is a waste of our time. Let's go to the other person. But my standard was, I'm going to do this afraid. If they're making fun of me, or they're saying their stuff, or they're trying to troll on me, I'm still going to do it. Because the people on the other camera that I was now talking to cared. And they were leaving comments and likes and things like that. So you have to just do it afraid and go by your own standards of success and not for others.
Right.
So, all right. We got another one here from Marcus Aurelius. But remember, you have the power within you to endure anything, for your mere opinion can render it tolerable, perhaps even acceptable. by regarding it as an opportunity for enlightenment or a matter of duty. And going back to those trolls, I can say this is exactly what that was. We can look at this as tolerable or even acceptable. It taught me something. It taught me to stick to my guns. And when I turned around, they were gone from the thing, you know. So don't be afraid. Stick to it. What advice would you give for someone who wants to do something big with their life? Maybe it's start a business. Maybe it's make a move. Maybe it's have a child and start a family, and they're afraid to do it. What advice would you give from your own life to those people to help them out?
I would say start out by taking smaller steps. You know,
Good.
Sometimes we think, and I do this all the time with a lot of things. I start to doubt because I start thinking too big. I start thinking end results and what it can look like instead of just saying, hey, let's put some systems in place. What does it look like if I take these smaller steps realistically and building up to it? And so, yeah, I would say break down your large goals into smaller manageable steps. And it'll be less daunting and easier to tackle.
Yeah, I like to use the house scenario where, and I've said this on the podcast before, but if you want to move that house, if I asked you, can you take this entire house and move it 3 feet to the right? You would say that is dumb. Stupid. I'm not going to do that. That's a waste of my time to even ponder that. Of course I cannot live in a house that weighs tons and tons. But if I busted one brick out of the wall and said, can you move this 3 feet? You would easily do it.
Yeah.
And that's because it's broken down into a small but measurable task. We're doing that. So I love how you said that. We are always looking at the end of it. And that's what gives us the fear and the anxiety.
Yeah.
If I don't become a multimillionaire with this YouTube channel, I have failed. Instead of saying, can I get one more subscriber this week and thank them for joining the channel? Because they cared enough to listen to what I had to say.
And asking people for help, because we tend to think, again, I'm alone in this. It's all in my power and my capabilities. I know now what my capabilities are. I know what my skills are. And if there's something that I feel like I know that I want to tackle and I can't do it alone and in my own strength and my own way, I'm starting to think, who can help me through this? Yeah. Is it my kids? Is it my husband? Is it someone else that I can talk to and say, hey, this is what I'd like to achieve. How can you, or, you know, can you help me with this? I know you're good at this. I know you're good at that, you know, or can you lead me to the right person? Asking people for help to manage and to make those goals. So it's not just what can I do, it's what can someone else do to help me? Yeah,
no, and Marcus Aurelius talks about this. There's no shame in asking for help. Shows you care about your life and what you're trying to do next for that.
And you start to realize that other people actually do care about you too, you know. So there a lot of people, I think a lot of times I didn't want to bother people. I felt like I was a burden and I should just do this on my own. But I started to realize also in asking people for help was I started to really see how much people really cared about me and wanted to see me succeed and were there to help and say like, hey, ask me for help, you know, I'll like, what's your next project? I'm there, you know, and I started to really see the people come through, that they really wanted to be there for my success.
Yeah, that's good. Surrounding yourself with those people again that lift you up. So it's very good. And I think it also goes back again to what we said previously about setting your own measure for success for it and saying, this is what I'm going to try to hit and not be embarrassed. Thinking other people are going to look down on you. Again, taking something that many podcasters have said, and it's we way overestimate people's opinions of us because they don't care. They're dealing with their own stuff. It's not going to make their day or their life that you tripped and fell on your way down the runway. You know, it's going to probably make a meme out of it and make you a superstar on social media, but you know, you see these models that trip and fall and they stand right back up and they keep walking. And you could think that's going to ruin her career, but it doesn't. Nobody cares. It's, you know, something that might have gotten a chuckle or a laugh and embarrasses them for a moment, and then they go on and they continue. And so we have those runway moments in our life all the time where we're like, I got to look perfect. I got to act perfect. I got to say the right things. And we're afraid to trip and fall, but no one's going to care if we do. As long as we get back up and keep going. they'll forget all about it. So
I think it helps other people do things as well, because they say, "Oh, they're brave. They didn't care if they failed," and it gives people permission to feel like they could do the same thing.
Yes.
And they don't have to be perfect as well. So yeah.
Very good. Another one from Marcus Aurelius. Persevere then until you have learned everything life has to teach you. The way a healthy stomach digests all sort of food, and a roaring fire converts whatever is heaped into it into heat and light. I love that quote there. Suck it all in. Take it in. Take the hard times. Take the good. Take the victories. Take the failure. And digest it. What can you take from this? What nutrients can you use to make yourself a better person through all that? And that's all based on experiences and allowing yourselves to have them. So this name's going to ring a bell for some people. Kin Jong, I was talking about it with my boss at work the other day, but Kin Jong is on The Masked Singer. He is the crazy guy that runs around and makes a lot of noise. He was on Community 2 and The Hangover and Knocked Up and a bunch of other movies that he was in. But Kin Jong is a good doctor. He was a doctor for many, many years. And when he was going to Duke, realized that he also enjoyed comedy. He thought it was fun. His entire life he wanted to be a doctor. His entire life his family wanted to be a doctor. And he succeeded at doing that. But the call to comedy, the call to be funny, the call to not be seen as a godlike personality as a surgeon, as some of them have, but instead to let people laugh at you and be silly, it called to him. And so he actually would do 90-hour work weeks at the hospital and still find time to go directly to do stand-up afterwards. Now think about 90 hours. Some of us struggle with 40 that we have. Some of us hit 60. 90 hours and still be able to go and do stand-up comedy. But the thing is, he did it afraid. Mm-hmm. He knew that success or not, it was something that he wanted to do and that he loved to do. But he also never forgot who he was. He renews his medical license every year, or every time it comes up for renewal. And he actually had a moment on stage where one of the people watching his show had a seizure, and he jumped off stage, just reactionary, jumped off stage and helped the woman, revived her, got her emergency services, and she was fine. But he never forgot who he was. Even though he was doing things afraid and doing the things he wanted, he never forgot who he was. We sometimes have to remember that too. We're going out on a limb. We're reaching out for things that we've never done before. But remember who you are at your core. Maybe you were that tough kid that had a hard life. Use that to help you get over those fears. Maybe you were the one who was bullied. Use that to live life through fear. I'm not going to let this destroy me anymore. I'm not going to let this hold me back anymore. Maybe you are the single mother, as you had been once before. And you use that to say, if I can get through this as a single mom, I know I can get through that and do it afraid through this. So remember who you are at your core and let that push you to do it afraid. Yeah. To get over things afraid. Just one more quick question here. Let's see here. Do I have one or two more? Well, here's one. What's one thing that you have personally done afraid in your life? Success or fail? What's something that you've personally done afraid? And we're glad.
Let's see.
I know it's a big one to ask.
Wait, repeat the question again.
What is one thing you have done afraid in your life? Whether it succeeded or not, you were glad you did it.
Man, there's a few. Having kids, for one.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Taking that step to have a family, because that's a big one.
I know one for you.
And then
too.
and then going into another relationship, because I've been hurt in the past and have gone through a lot of stuff, and it not only affected me but also affected my kids. So taking this chance again, mm-hmm. and it's a success, guys.
Yeah.
I feel like our relationship is a success.
I agree. And I remember telling you at the beginning, too, that I told God that if I was going to do this again, I was going to
Yeah.
do it unafraid. Is that not the exact words that I
You
used?
did.
And I think I got very blessed with that because, I found an amazing wife that's been super supportive, and we've been able to walk this journey together through all of it. But I was also thinking one other thing for you that I think was big. And I remember you were a little afraid to do it, but you did it anyway. You have spent 15 years in early education.
Yeah.
And then decided, out of the blue, that you were going to teach high school.
That's true.
Junior high.
You're right.
Gina goes to be assistant teacher, and you went from teaching small human beings to teaching kids that were, and not just high school students, but kids that were struggling, last chance kids in education.
Yeah.
And what a different, grouping. So how was that for you to do that afraid?
Man, honestly, they're just bigger humans. Some similar challenges, different, but at the same time, man, I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I feel like I've grown so much. I was afraid because I was like, wow, I don't think I could do this, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot with them through everything, and just seeing the accomplishments that they've gone through. I realized, man, I had so much in common with these kids, and I think that's what has helped me through this, is that I just realized, man, I've been through a lot of the same things that these kids have gone through, and that's all I had to do was just be an open ear for them and just be there to understand and help them through things. Mm-hmm. I built a relationship with them because I understood them, and I think when they saw that, they opened up to me, and so honestly, it's been great.
Good.
I've really liked it a lot.
Just out of my own curiosity, what is the one similarity between preschool kids and high schoolers? If you could think of one.
What's the similarity?
Yeah, what's just one thing that you're like, man, this is the same for them?
They think that everything is about them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Everything is about them still, and it is sometimes, but they're still learning. They're still learning that it's not about them all the time. That they still have to learn how to make things about others as well, not just them. They can still be in that selfishness.
Yeah.
But I think when we get towards the end of the year, they're starting to grow and learn, and we create that environment for them. We start to teach them and show them, hey guys, yes, it's okay. It is about you sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah.
And just seeing that click for them, and how we become how we become a family, and they start to learn that the importance of other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very good. Excellent. All right. One example of just something I did afraid before we wrap up here is when I was 23, my friend said, let's go to move to Australia. Let's go. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, let's move to Australia. So he had done a study abroad in Perth in Australia, and he's like, I want to go back this year. And I had never been outside of Arizona, except for, just a quick trip to California every once in a while, which is right next door to us. Mm-hmm. And to get on a plane and fly to Australia, my first plane flight was an 18-hour plane flight to Australia. So I was scared. I was very nervous. I knew that I needed to have opportunities to be afraid and to try things out. And he did encourage me. He's one of those people, that's maybe not so much a gentle push on the back, more like a big barroom slap on the back. But he said, let's do this. Let's go. And I went over there. I took a leave of absence from my job for a year. And I went over there with very little money in my pocket. I think I had enough to cover rent for the first month. And I went over there with him and another friend. We found an apartment, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get a job here. And I tried and tried and tried. And we were in a part of Australia on the Gold Coast where there just wasn't a lot of jobs available at the time. And of course, he found a job the first day there.
Wow.
He's just he never was afraid, and so he would just walk into any place and say, "You hiring? Okay, I'll start Monday." So he found it right away. But as I was trying to find things that I thought were suitable for me, I couldn't, and my money ran low. And so my dad said, "Hey, look, you got some money in savings, here." He said, "I'll wire it to you. It'll help, get you through this." I said, "Okay." So my dad calls me and he says, "Hey, did you get the money that we sent through this postal service through Australia?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, I sent it 5 days ago. You should have gotten it."
Oh, no.
So I started checking and I started checking and I started checking, and it never came. And so when I went to the front desk of the place we were staying, and I said, I haven't got my package. And they're like, "Yeah, sorry, mate. Sometimes stuff falls off the back of the motorcycle." And I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
Yep,
no.
Sure enough, postal delivery was done on a motorcycle there. And we witnessed ourselves, letters flying out of the back of the bag. I'm not kidding, where we were at. Now, I'd like to think it was just one incompetent person, and that wasn't a normal thing. But somehow, in the midst of it, I lost my savings. So now I have no money. I am literally using the claw machine downstairs and change to get candy out so I had something to eat at the time. And then finally, my dad wired me a little bit of money and said, "Hey, this is going to help you hopefully get through to you, find a job." I was down to the last moment. The phone rang, and finally one of my interviews called me back and said, "Can you start this weekend?" And I was scared to death. I'm in a country, I have no fare to get home. My plane ticket is not supposed to be returned for 6 months from now. I was going to have to get that changed, and my whole thing was going to be ruined. And it was okay. I loved it. It was one of the best times of my life. Being scared was kind of fun. It really brought me out of my shell, and I had to talk to more people, and I learned how to interview and be good at that, and fudge a little bit because they had no idea where Arizona was in America, and I told them that it was right next to the ocean, which is not true. But I was trying to get a job at SeaWorld. So I told them it was right next to the ocean, and then
Oh my goodness.
I was one of the founding members of the Arizona Society for the Preservation of Sea Turtles. I kid you not. So that was what got me in, guys.
Ryan,
so I'm not condoning lying on your resumes. Don't do that. It's a bad thing. Let your merit speak for yourself. But I did it afraid. And so that's kind of the thing, is nothing ventured, nothing gained. I wouldn't have those moments, those stories, things that I laugh about, 25 years later, had we not done that. So very good. What's something that you might be afraid to do ahead? That you are challenging yourself and saying, "I'm going to try this."
What's something I'm afraid to do ahead?
Something that you might have been afraid of to this point.
To stop learning. Like, I don't want to stop learning. Like,
Okay.
So
you've been afraid maybe to go back to school, and now you're ready to...
Yeah. I've kind of dabbled going in and out of it, and just signing up again, and I've come up with a lot of excuses, but I don't want to stop learning. I want to keep learning. I don't want nothing to get in the way. And however that be, through school or just whatever, but even just reading a lot more, and just taking more chances, getting out there, getting involved, doing things, being a part of things. Yeah.
I have to say, the thing that I'm afraid to fail at, that I need to do more, is be the father that my daughters need more. I think I have been so afraid to fail at that it has pushed me away in my relationships from them. And I don't want to be too intrusive. I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to be in their face. I don't even want to be like an inconvenience to them. So I push myself away. And I just need to do it afraid. To say it's okay if they're annoyed that I'm asking them how their day is for the third time. It's okay if they're annoyed that because the hope is they'll look back later on it when they're adults, and they'll look back and say, "I'm so glad he did those things." Yeah. And that's hard. It's something I got to do afraid. And just be a father. Be a good father to them.
You're a good stepfather. Look, you just got to be more like me. I am an annoying parent. I gush all over them, I kiss all over them, and I boast about them. I'm overly like, you know, my kids are at a concert tonight, and I said, be careful, it's a big crowd, there's shootings. I'm like, really, Mom? Thank you for putting that in my mind, you know? Just this very careful, but yeah, be an annoying parent, because you know what, I do see, and you tell me, they love you, and every time they get into something or they're about to do something, the first person they come to is Mom, and I love that. It makes me proud, it makes me happy, so you're a good parent.
Thank you. Yeah, trying to get past my fears to be a better parent. So that's good. I want to thank you all and just encourage you all to do it afraid. Go out there and do it. Do it to the best of your ability. Run the race so you can win. Go up against that tough sparring partner that you have. Marcus Aurelius says, whenever anything is hindered, its condition deteriorates and becomes worse. Whereas a man actually becomes better and more praiseworthy when he overcomes what hinders him through the use of reason. Do it afraid, overcome it, and be a better person for it. Thank you all for listening. Long podcast this week. Appreciate it. Thank you all for subscribing. If you haven't gotten to YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel there and get the podcast there as well. We're on Spotify and Podbean, Amazon, iTunes, all of those. So thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time. And until then, as always, Semper Studiosus. Good night, everybody.